Once upon a time, in a village called Oro, there lived a man called Lukman, who got married to Zenab, a lady from a very poor family. Her in-laws hated her because Lukman stopped sending money frequently to them after he got married to Zenab. They believed she was the reason why Lukman suddenly became stingy. Lukman was a bachelor when he met Zenab at the market selling vegetables. There were other vegetable vendors, but Zenab appeared exceptional. Unlike the other vendors, Lukman was impressed by her intelligence. She could speak fluently and appeared very educated. Ever since that day, Lukman always bought vegetables from her. Until one day, he asked her out on a date. Lukman found out that Zenab was a graduate, but due to the unemployment rate in the country, she decided to venture into the selling of vegetables as she heard that it was a lucrative business. Lukman was impressed by her diligence and willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. He fell in love with the kind of person she was and decided to take her in as his wife. Zenab was an orphan from a very poor family who was shouldered with the responsibility of taking care of her younger ones. Her parents sent her to school because they believed it was the surest way out of poverty, but things didn't go exactly as they planned. Lukman proposed to marry Zenab. After seeing how caring and affectionate he was, Zenab accepted to marry him. Lukman took her to see his parents and siblings, but they were not comfortable with Zenab's social status. They had expected Lukman to bring home a woman from a wealthy family. They were against the marriage, but Lukman insisted that Zenab was the woman he intended to spend the rest of his life with. When they realized they couldn't convince him otherwise, they succumbed to his request and gave him their blessings. However, a few months after Lukman married Zenab, they observed that Lukman was no longer as charitable as he used to be. Unlike before, Lukman sent them money as soon as they requested. They noticed that Lukman always gave excuses whenever they asked him for money. One of the days which Lukman traveled to see his family, they expressed their displeasure about his reluctance to lavish money on them like he used to before. Lukman explained to them, "I am sorry that I haven't been forthcoming like I used to. My business has been very slow, and I spent a lot of money in preparation for my wedding feast with Zenab. Not to mention the fact that I am now married, so there are certain expenses that I have to neglect. My wife is equally pregnant and I need money for my unborn baby." But his family refused to understand his plight. They felt he had been influenced by his wife and she was the reason why he stopped sending money to them as he used to. They stopped being polite to Zenab and saw her as their enemy. Many times they accused her of bewitching their son, and so he had stopped sending money to them and sends money to her siblings instead. Whenever they visited Lukman in Oro village, they made life miserable and uncomfortable for Zenab. Most of the time, Zenab was hurt and heartbroken. She felt pained that her in-laws didn't believe her words. Lukman was wealthy, and so he insisted that his wife Zenab would not work for anyone. This equally fueled Zenab's in-laws' beliefs that she was the one squandering all their son's money while stopping him from sending money to them all the time like he used to. Even when she gave birth to her first child, a beautiful daughter, they refused to come to the house to visit them. Zenab enrolled her siblings in skill acquisition centers to learn different skills of their choices, so they wouldn't have to depend on her or anyone in life to make a living. But her in-laws felt she was sending their son's money to her siblings to live a lavish lifestyle. One day, Lukman's mother decided to visit an evil native doctor. She wanted the witch doctor to cause a dispute between Zenab and her son, Lukman. She journeyed deep into the north in search of the rumored witch doctor. After some weeks, she found him deep inside a thick forest. "I want you to help me, O powerful one. My son is married to a witch. She has caged him and made him her puppet." "What do you want me to do? Tell me, and it shall be done." "I want you to distort my son's vision, so that whenever he sees his wife, all he would feel is hatred and rage. I want you to destroy his home, so he would marry the woman I want him to marry." "There is nothing impossible for Otuka to do. Take this powder and gift it to your son's wife. Once she rubs it on her face, your mission will be accomplished." The evil witch doctor handed her a container which had some powder in it. He further warned Lukman's mother that no one else must use the powder, or else the effect of the powder would leave Zenab and be passed on to the person that uses it. Afterwards, the person that used it and Lukman's mother would die. Lukman's mother thanked the evil witch doctor and journeyed back home. Immediately she got back home, she called Lukman and told him she wants to visit them. Lukman told Zenab, and she happily prepared her mother-in-law's best meal. She was anxious, but Lukman told her to relax. When her mother-in-law arrived, she was friendly to Zenab. Her sudden friendly approach made Zenab surprised and suspicious, but Zenab had no idea what her mother-in-law was up to. While they ate on the dining table, Lukman's mother excused herself and sneaked into Zenab's room. She quietly went to where Zenab kept her cosmetics and poured some of the powdered substance which the evil witch doctor gave to her into Zenab's powder. Then she returned to the dining table as though everything was fine. Immediately after eating, Lukman's mother told them she had something urgent to attend to in their hometown and had to leave immediately. Lukman insisted that his mother spent the night since she arrived just a few hours ago, but she insisted that she had to leave. Lukman offered to drop her off at the park while Zenab stayed at home. After Zenab had cleared the dishes, she took her bath and rubbed on her powder. When Lukman returned, Zenab rushed down to welcome him, but his countenance changed immediately he saw her. Zenab was surprised at his reaction. Lukman yelled at her for coming down to greet him and gave her a resounding slap. Then he pushed her aside and entered the house. Zenab stood at a spot, shocked at what she just experienced. She felt like she was dreaming. When she entered inside the house, Lukman screamed at her to leave immediately he saw her. Zenab couldn't understand what was happening to Lukman. She was confused. But before she could make sense of what was happening, Lukman started throwing her belongings and that of their daughter out of the house. He said he wanted nothing to do with Zenab or their daughter. Zenab went on her knees and pleaded with Lukman, but his heart was deepened and hardened. She packed her things and went to see her mother-in-law with her daughter. She explained everything that happened to them, but they called her a witch. "You witch! I knew you bewitched my son, but I'm glad my God has vindicated me. Please leave my son alone. Go away with your cursed daughter. Your charm has expired." Zenab left her in-laws' house in tears. She took her daughter with her and went to stay with one of her siblings who had finished learning his skill and was doing well for himself. She spent almost every day crying, and her daughter would stand beside her, clearing her tears and telling her, "Sorry, mommy." After some weeks, Zenab decided to start life afresh for her sake and for the sake of her daughter. She dusted her certificate and went in search of a job. She was fortunate to be employed by a very reputable company which offered her a good salary, a nice apartment and a luxury car. Zenab enrolled her daughter in a good school and she completely erased Lukman out of her life. Meanwhile, Lukman's mother brought him another woman named Aminat. She was the daughter of a business mogul. Lukman listened to his mother and got married to Aminat. But unlike Zenab, who was industrious, well-trained, frugal and disciplined, Aminat was the complete opposite. She was flamboyant and extravagant. She spent Lukman's money lavishly and her thirst for money had no end. Aminat would always send money to her in-laws at the expense of Lukman's business. She got pregnant a few months after they got married and used her baby as an excuse to always milk money from Lukman. In a few months, Lukman's business ran down. He started struggling to survive. He took a lot of loans to keep up with Aminat's lifestyle. But when he couldn't fund her lifestyle anymore, Aminat left him with her baby. Lukman was very upset and tried to have Aminat arrested for leaving their child, but Aminat told him that the child in question doesn't belong to him. She confessed that she was having an affair with her lover and she only accepted to marry Lukman because his mother claimed Lukman was very wealthy. Lukman was heartbroken and downcasted. He hated and despised his parents for introducing him to Aminat. Eventually, they also discovered that Aminat lied about who her father was. She was just a gold digger and not the daughter of any business mogul. Lukman started living from hand to mouth. One fateful day, Lukman's sister was invited on a date by a very responsible man who wanted to marry her. She searched all the house for her makeup box but couldn't find. So she went into her mother's bag and found the white substance which the evil witch doctor had given her mother, carefully wrapped in a paper. She felt the texture of the substance and it felt like local powder, so she rubbed it on her face. When she went out to meet her date, he suddenly became enraged with her. He called off their engagement and drove away. When her mother returned, she explained what happened, and suddenly her mother recalled the warning which the evil witch doctor gave her and collapsed on the floor. When she became conscious, she pleaded with Lukman to come and see her, that she had something very important to tell him. The next day, when Lukman arrived, his mother was already seriously ill, alongside his sister who had a rotting face due to the white substance she rubbed on her face. Lukman's mother confessed to all that she had done and pleaded with Lukman to please forgive her. She equally asked Lukman to find Zenab and bring her back. She needed Zenab's forgiveness before she passed away. Lukman wept after hearing his mother's words. He quickly went in search of Zenab, but he didn't know where to find her. He recalled that one of her siblings was learning a skill somewhere close to his office some years ago and went to inquire about him. When he got there, they gave him the new address of Zenab's sibling. Lukman located their house and went on his knees the moment he saw Zenab's brother. Please, I know I have greatly offended you and your sister. I wasn't in my right senses back then. I'm deeply sorry. Please take me to your sister. My mother urgently needs her forgiveness. Unknown to Lukman, Zenab was inside the house with her daughter at the moment. She had visited her sibling to spend the weekend with her daughter. When she heard Lukman pleading and saw how remorseful he was, she decided to forgive him and follow him back to see his mother. When she came outside the house, her brother tried to stop her, but she reminded him of their prayers, which stated that God only forgives those who forgive others. Zenab followed Lukman back to his hometown to see his mother. Zenab was shocked when she saw how disfigured her sister-in-law's face was and how serious her mother-in-law's condition was. She sat beside Lukman's mother on the sickbed and told her she had forgiven her, while waiting to hear what she would say. Lukman's mother smiled at how soft-hearted Zenab was. She felt really guilty that Zenab could easily forgive her despite how cruel she treated her in the past. She called Lukman close and made him promise never to leave Zenab no matter what. Immediately after Lukman made the promise, his mother took her last breath. His sister followed a few minutes later. Lukman pleaded with Zenab to return home with him. He promised her that he would never change towards her again. Zenab still loved him despite how much he had hurt her, and she knew that her daughter needed a father. She accepted to follow him back home, but on one condition: that he must allow her continue her job. Lukman agreed and they returned home together. Zenab was able to properly combine her job with her home duties, practicing time management effectively. She blossomed in her career and also invested in her husband's businesses. Their family continued to grow larger in size and wealth. They lived in peace, love, and harmony. The moral lesson of this story makes us understand that it is wise to have a source of income as a woman, no matter how rich your husband may be. No one knows tomorrow, and the worst can happen anytime, so it is wise to be unprepared for the unknown.